Titanfall 2 is the greatest depiction of a friendship in gaming, right? You know, this might be a bit confusing because it's a robot and an AI, right? But there's a big difference in how this story is written to exemplify that friendship. So, obviously, first of all, it is built on a mutual trust. Jack isn't a trained pilot, he isn't supposed to be a pilot, he's just a rifleman. He's been thrown into this role because no one else was there, and he was the only person that could be given this role. He was only given the role through circumstance, and BT is this robot who's kind of bound and driven to complete protocol, follow that. And that is how they start off, the only reason they're together is for functionality. But you see it progressing through the story, it's become more loyalty and friendship. And you see that when at the end of the mission, I don't remember the name of it, where you finally meet up with the militia, BT asks to stay with Cooper. And it's not like, oh, I need a trained pilot. No, Cooper has proven himself, and I am connected with Cooper. So, yeah, I want to keep him. And a lot of this is kind of shown through the levels too, where BT has a very, dry sense of humor. He's just like, that was impressive. Or he's making jokes about the dead pilot and infected cause.
I found Anderson. He's in the ceiling.
Objective complete. We have rendezvoused with Major Anderson.
Very funny.
Or other things, he's not just this very, very serious, you know. BT talks about improved mechanisms, and, or not improved mechanisms, but improved equipment. And Jack Cooper, your pilot, the main character, he just jokes around. He's like, BT, it kind of sounds like you're in love. And BT is like, I am only 50% in love. Mix of literal and, humor. And this kind of this humanizes a robot, and it's a real friendship. Anyone here, everyone here, you joke with your friends and you mess around with your friends. You're not always serious. You might you might joke about, you might pick fun at each other, and that's good. And one of the most important aspects of their friendship is their shared struggle. They have both been, you know, put into these overwhelming odds and overcome them. Obviously, you got normal, just intense battles, right? Saving people in the second level. You got the time travel mission, and these massive, deemed impossible missions, and normal people would deem them impossible, allow BT and Jack Cooper to form a connection where, BT is caring for Cooper. He's like, "Are you alright, pilot?" Blah blah blah. And Cooper allows BT to throw him. Not exactly sure what BT could do. It is a bond where it is built on trust, and this kind of culminates in BT's final acts, where he literally throws Jack away to save him. You know, Protocol 3, protect the pilot. BT throwing Jack with no clue whether he'll survive or not, just based on the hope and the fact that he knows he'll die if he goes into the core with BT. Throws him to safety, and he says, "Trust me." And BT, in his final moments, puts Jack to safety, throws him away from the ark and allows him to survive and live. And that is a friendship that, couldn't have been possible in most stories. And that is why Titanfall 2 has such a good story, because it takes the time to show the relationship and create that relationship. A lot of games and a lot of companies like Activision, they would not have put as much effort as Respawn did into creating that friendship between Jack and BT. They would have made BT just a badass robot doing badass robot stuff. They wouldn't have had the bond that Jack and BT do. because it's not just shown in cutscenes or anything. There's actually very few cutscenes in Titanfall 2, and the fact that the game's shorter, allows for them to tell that story of friendship, you know, easier and more effectively, because you can play Titanfall through in play, one play session, and you get your full story, and you get to see that bond, and you see just how close they get, and you see while playing the game, BT and Jack getting closer. You go from pilot, this is the most optimal way to do this, to are you okay, pilot? Or are you okay, Cooper? He goes from calling him pilot to calling him his name, and, caring for him. He says, oh yeah, I noticed that there's weapon stashes here, not pilot, there's weapon stashes here. You see BT, ironically a robot, developing more human traits and developing that friendship with Cooper, where they both taught each other better, and you have that trust, and it's shown in you know most people's favorite things, where BT has caught Cooper, or BT has you know thrown Cooper, and it's not, oh, robot, trust the robot. BT, he jokes about, he's like, I'm 60% sure, or he jokes about throughout the story anyways, and you see this friendship, and it is the greatest depiction of friendship in gaming. you know of course, in anime, you got Goku and Vegeta, you got Spider-Man and Miles Morales, but nobody does it as well as Respawn did when they created Titanfall 2. It is the best depiction of friendship in gaming, and I will stand by that forever. And yeah, that's all. I hope you guys enjoy and understand my opinion. And if you have your own, obviously leave it in the comments below. I would love to talk to you guys, or talk with you guys about these. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like my thoughts on it, leave a like, a comment, and I appreciate it if you consider subscribing.